You're listening to the Life of Lozo podcast.
We are live here at Life of Lozo.
He is the funniest, smartest, sexiest guy I know.
Lozo is now live.
Yo, on this podcast, we keep it going with Social Media Day. Jackson, welcome Blythe from guysgirl.com and 1010XL's Helmets and Heels. We talk social media platforms, turning passion into a career, and how she helps keep companies up to date online. Blythe explains her passion for the Jags and shares which swear word was her first word as a child. Thank you to our sponsors, Stay Tuned Studios, The Taylor Shop Inc., 03 Productions, The Beat Brigade, Rhyme Designs Clothing, Ron's World Guitars, The Music Experience, Custom Shirts, and more, and Jack's Nutrition. Let's go. Yo, Life of Lozo. We are here in Studio A at Stay Tuned Studios, STS podcast in the beautiful Jacksonville, Florida, sponsored by Don, the owner of Stay Tuned Studios.
That's me.
And we are talking social media and could not be happier to have a special guest in the room today, Blythe from guysgirl.com and at guysgirl and Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and Helmets and Heels on Twitter.
All of the social media networks.
On all social media networks.
All of them.
Every single one of them. If you haven't even heard of some of these yet, you're still on Vine, I imagine.
I do. I really miss Vine. As soon as they announced that it was going to stop, I was already going through all my Vines and saving them.
Yeah, right. No, Vine was hysterical. To me, Vine had the best meme videos. There was one guy, I can't remember his name, but he used to always do the animal voiceovers. And he'd have the monkey with the banana. He'd snap the banana under his arm and eat it real quick. I'm telling you, I'm gonna post. I have that video saved somewhere. I'm gonna post that when this episode drops because it was hysterical. So
I was gonna say it sounds really
it's funny.
A lot of talent on Vine that now has had to move to other venues.
Right. Some very successful. Some
others.
Can't go wrong with a monkey though.
Right. Hey, anytime you get a monkey doing silly stuff and you can talk over it, I'm in. Count me in. Count me in. So we're talking social media. Social Media Day here in Jax, and I obviously something that you've been doing for a while, and you're doing very well, and turned this into a career and that type of thing. So I would love to kind of just learn more about what got you into it, and how you made it happen.
Sure. It was about 10 years ago. I was living in Orlando, and I had just got a job at my dream organization. I'm a big sort of Disney fanatic, and I had gotten a job there, and then I was working there for 3 days, and then all of a sudden the rug sort of got pulled out from underneath me. Personal life issue forced me to move back to Jacksonville. Came back to Jacksonville, and I said, I got to do something with my life, and I don't want to be in a situation where somebody can determine my future. And so I said, I have to own my own business. I come from a family of business owners, entrepreneurs, so it was just the next logical step for me. And I think that started in about 2008. And then 2009 is when I launched my website, and I got on most of the social media platforms. Twitter was one of the first ones. I think a lot of people were on Facebook for a while, but Twitter was really my first one that I gravitated towards and just really loved the network and the interactions that I had with people on there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, too, that was a kind of prime time for social media launches and whatnot. And I think a lot of people were still trying to figure it out. Twitter's so interested in character limitations, but at the same time, in the hashtags and the whole thing. And Facebook to me was always kind of the family connection social media thing, right?
Absolutely.
Just pictures and family and and hey grandma, here's the kids and that type of thing.
Baby photos, weddings.
Right, exactly.
Everything on that side of the spectrum.
And I think Twitter really took off as the in the moment kind of back and forth in regards. I think wasn't Ashton Kutcher the first million followers on Twitter?
He was.
Yeah.
And now it just seems sort of he's almost like an afterthought.
Yeah,
I would imagine, as far as
right.
the landscape of media consumption and actors are concerned. But he was one of the first ones, I think, to really gravitate towards the platform too.
Absolutely. So when you started it, were you thinking I'm going to utilize social media as the means of really kind of developing my business, or was it I'm going to kind of guys girl media? Was that your thing, and then you just so happened to get into social media?
Well, I didn't really. I don't want to say I stumbled into social media, but it's certainly from someone who comes from a sports background, that was the natural place to go to, because everybody who's watching live events, and Twitter is really the best place for live events. And so that's where I was interacting with the majority of people. But I would say that between that network and Facebook, I don't know that any other platforms were around that time. that I really could gravitate towards. But Twitter was the only one that really served a purpose for what I was doing at that moment. I mean, things changed since then. Other platforms have come and gone, but Twitter was really the main focus from day one, from a blog perspective.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned sports, so I would love to kind of know, like, so what really got you into it, and not even just like people are into sports, but like really into sports and a fan, and like, you know, kind of fast forward to where you are today.
Sure.
You know, what was the thing that kind of sparked that, and how did you get to that point?
Well, I remember thinking that there was coming from the Jaguar fan perspective, we're the only team in the NFL that has a majority of female fans as their fan base. It's 51% of the fans are made up of females.
Wow.
And I remember all of my girlfriends and I, we had season tickets, and we would go out and we would try to purchase clothes that were made for women, and it was incredibly difficult. And so what we would do is we would have these clothes making parties, and we would all sit around and we would make different Jaguar t-shirts, and we would cut up old shirts and put them onto a shirt that actually fit us, and it worked well for us. And I said, this is my sort of eureka moment. Like, I need to make content and make a merchandise for the female sports fan. And so I started doing a little digging. I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't going to be able to compete on a retail level.
Sure.
Naively, at that time, I thought I could compete with the Walmarts of the world, but that didn't happen. So I said, well, I'll just teach women about sports and gaming, because that's what I'm really into. And I feel like I'm one of the few who really appreciate all of these different aspects of being a woman and being in this sort of female fan culture. And so I started the blog, and a few years later, then I started to see an opportunity to start monetizing. And I was also working at a logistics company at the same time, and my boss was really, really enthusiastic about social media. So what he would do is he would pay for trips for me to go to these different conferences. So I would go up to Boston and learn from the people from HubSpot, or I would go to a social media conference in Charleston or in Tampa. And so that's where I really started to learn the basics of social media, how to monetize it, how to craft your message per brand, per platform, because that's real. I think that people miss a lot of that. We talked earlier about the differences between Facebook and Twitter.
Yep.
And Twitter seems more of like the honest and maybe negative side of things, where Facebook feels more of like, this is everything is sunshine and roses. So that was how I really learned how to was going to these different conferences, was learning how to apply those skills to different verticals and different businesses. And that's sort of where it led me today.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I appreciate it. Look at so good at talking. I love it. There's a lot to unpack there. But no, and you brought up the logistics part of it, because I know modern logistics marketing is another thing that you do as well. And I love that, because I think that it's such a niche market from what I see, right? But Jacksonville is really known for logistics and travel and CSX here in the shipyards and everything like that.
Absolutely.
So what was your intent in starting that? And kind of what are the things that you feel that I know it brings value, but what are the things that you feel it brings value to for some of these larger companies?
For a lot of these larger companies, they think that if they just have a website, then that's enough. And they probably launched a website 10 years ago and didn't realize that you have to have a fast loading website. You have to have it mobile optimized. You have to have your social media incorporated with it. You have to have a reason that people want to visit your site and engage with your brand. And a lot of these logistics companies, they either A, don't have a website, or B, they launched it so long ago that they just think that they can just throw it up against the wall and it sticks, and that's fine. It doesn't work that way anymore. You have to use these different avenues, and you have to use social media, for example, as that digital handshake that gets you through the door at a lot of these other different companies. And a lot of them don't understand, simple phrases like email marketing,
right,
where they're a lot of these companies are sending out thousands of emails every single day using Outlook. And not to say that Outlook is a bad program, but you can't test anything with it. You can't track anything with it. So if you just move your efforts to another platform, then you can see some real results, and you can see if your efforts are paying off. And a lot of these guys are hesitant to do that. A lot of these guys are older men who are, in their 60s and their 70s, and they don't know anything about social media, or they don't know anything about digital marketing. And that's where someone like me would come into play and say, hey, you have a website, that's cool, but what are you actually earning off of that website?
Yeah. No, I love that because so many times I see kind of being into social media and SEO and that type of thing. You go to somebody's website and at the bottom it says like, copyright like 2011, right? And you're like, oh my God, right? Like little things like that, and then not mobile optimized. I think, it's a lot of the analogy that I use is kind of it, that being your online storefront.
Yes.
And if you just had the same old storefront for 10 or 12 or 13 years, never changed out the windows, never had it power washed, never went in and realized that, the electric door is broken and dead links and things like that.
Where's your TLC?
Right, exactly. You got to keep it up to speed. And I think it is somewhat intimidating because sometimes the perspective is that social media is like for the kids and it's Facebook. I don't understand it, but not realizing that, 80% of people's first interaction with a brand is online through their mobile device, right? And that the majority of not just millennials now, but the generation Ys and X's and Z's and even the boomers now are really popping into use it to consume media, but also to make purchases. And for it to be the digital handshake, for that to be the first impression that people have, nothing drives people crazier than when you go to the website and then you have to zoom in with 2 fingers and you're trying to click the button to say like get more info and it doesn't work.
Right.
And then you just lost a customer.
Exactly. They're never going to, statistically, they're never going to come back to your website.
Right. Absolutely. So no, that's interesting. And I think, it's, let me ask you this. So how do you get their attention? Because that was my first thought is like, clearly, it's tough because, if they don't understand it, they're not really open to talk about it. But what have you learned in regards to like advice to people that want to get into that, not this industry specifically, but just in general?
In general, I would say tough love is really my biggest selling point because I look at a lot of these different websites and I say, what are you doing? It's you can make small investments on your website and it would return. The amount of return that you would get would be trifold in some of these instances. And for me, it's just brutal honesty. That's how I've gotten this way or gotten this far in my career is just being completely honest with people and telling them straight up, yeah, you can have a website. Yeah, you can pay $30,000 to get a custom built website, but what is it going to do for you in return? Are you going to be able to capture any leads? Are you going to be able to test those leads? Are you going to be able to give them different forms and give them different, call to actions and A/B testing and all those phrases that they probably don't know what they mean, but that's where they would use someone like me in order to test their efforts. And I really think that a lot of companies, they see it as their social media is a similar example where they just create an account and they expect people to flood their website and flood their account, and if it doesn't work after a few months, then they just give up and say, well, we tried. Right. And it doesn't work that way. You have to cultivate those relationships and you have to cultivate them where people are at, and people are on these social media networks. So it just makes sense. Yeah, no, and I think it's adding value, right? Like that's the biggest thing is I think a lot of times when it comes to social media, it's just that like, I've got a Facebook page, or I've got an Instagram page, or I have a website, and every once in a while there's a post onto that website, or there's a post onto that Facebook, or they tag, say, another satisfied customer, but they don't really interact, they don't build any value, they don't build any type of a reason to come back and keep an eye on things. They're not caught into what's going on in the moment, right? There's so many opportunities when you think of just paying attention. And so I think that there's value in having a social media person on your staff. Yes. But I also think there's a larger value when they're not. Because in my opinion is when you're on staff, you're getting paid to do a job, and you're constantly looking to figure out ways to show that you add value. When you're a third-party person, you're really tied into the result of like, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm trying to get you. Now here's the actual data points that increase your revenue or increase your traffic. So I think you have to have one or the other, but I've seen more success usually when it's somebody who's kind of like yourself, like a third party, who could assess it without any emotion, right? Yes. And I don't have to stand I'm not at the coffee maker every Monday morning. Right. I'm not at the desk next to you. I'm looking at what you have. I'm telling you what I think and what you need to do that, and I'm willing to make that happen for you. And then we can actually track real data and real results versus just like sit at the desk
and go through my own Instagram feed,
Right.
and then make a couple of tweaks every once in a while. And I'm not trashing social media people that work for companies. I just think that there's another level of value when it's somebody that you bring in from a third party.
And that's, I would highly advise a lot of different companies out there to have a point person within their company, because it's tough to talk about a company when you're not in there in that day-to-day environment. So a lot of the companies that I work with, I am merely the liaison between what's working on their website and what the social media person should be doing.
Gotcha.
So that I think that finds it's more of a better balance for me, and you're working with the company and not just a paid employee who, if the company wants, I want 10,000 likes by this date, and it's like, well, I can buy those for you and I can get you 10,000 likes for $5 on the internet, but you're not going to get any value from it.
Right. Yeah, I think it's funny because I think people are starting to learn now, right? Where before it was just valued on likes and they didn't really understand what it meant. And within a couple of clicks, you can very quickly realize, are they real or not? Are they paid or not? And who cares? Like, who cares if it's 100,000 or 10,000 or 100 if they're engaged?
Exactly.
Right? If they're actually doing something with your site and they're either purchasing more or they're returning more often, the value add is the biggest thing, regardless of how many followers you have.
People on the web are selfish, and naturally when they go to a website, when they go to a social media network, they want to be entertained, and you have to provide that for them, because you're not only competing with the people in your local town or your local rivals, you're competing with the Kim Kardashians of the world. You're competing for attention, and that's what I think a lot of people forget whenever they post to their social media accounts. It's more for them and more self affirmations, I think, and instead of being helpful to their audience of what they're trying to build for them.
Absolutely. And like, I really appreciated, like, you did a YouTube video a couple of weeks ago around like the 5 biggest mistakes I think bloggers make, something like that, right? And I appreciate that, because I think that, like, that to me is just kind of giving back and helping pay it forward a little bit. So if you, let's say we have a small business owner who maybe, like a lot of them, like Don per se,
he's over there taking notes.
He's over there taking notes, right? Yeah,
I am. I can't write fast enough.
He's getting a free class of social media right now. But if you're saying like, hey, I kind of do it myself. I'm not there yet where I'm necessarily willing to hire somebody to do social media, or maybe I'm flirting with the idea of hiring somebody, right? What are those couple of things that you would say to them from just an advice standpoint, or how could they best assess, how they're doing with social media?
Oh, wow. They would have to do a lot of things. And I don't want to say that to scare anybody, but you have to have a goal. And I think what a lot of companies make mistake-wise when they hire somebody to do this is that they just hire them and say, just do social media for me. Here's my accounts, here's my logins, and they don't give them anything to work around or any kind of goals to set for them. And whenever you set goals, you also have to have a content funnel for those businesses to run through. Are you going to send them to your website to download a guide? Are you going to send them to get a quote? What's in it for that user in order to do the action that you want them to do? And so you have to have those connections between the two. And if you're thinking about hiring someone to handle your social media, you don't want it to all be sales as well too. You need to have a good blend, a good mix of your personality, your lifestyle, but also give them value and give them information on, hey, my tools can help you. You're missing out, but I'm still going to be here whenever you're ready. So I think a lot of companies need to focus. If you're a smaller company trying to gain a foothold, I definitely think you should hire someone eventually for social media, just because it tends to get to a point where it's a lot. But you also have to have your stuff set up beforehand. You have to have your content on your website or your different offerings of what you're trying to get from the visitor, from the customer. And then you also have to make those into actionable goals for whoever you hire in order to try to shoot for those goals. Because if you just throw them to the wolves, you're going to get the end result of probably back where you started from.
Right, exactly. Just with more followers, maybe.
Exactly. Hopefully, you would
right?
think.
Yeah. No, and I think I think a big part of that in when I talk to people about social media and try to help people out, the idea of documenting and not creating. Right, and just
Gary V.
Right, exactly. Gary V 101, right? Vayner Nation, hoorah! But it makes so much sense because it's so real, and it's just and it's genuine, and it's like taking credit for the work that you're already doing, right? Like if you're a small business and you're out in the community, let people know you're out in the community.
Exactly.
Right? If you're a small business and you're doing things like delivering goods from one to another, let people know you're delivering goods from one to another. You know, like it's not this big hard thing of like the perfect post or the perfect photo or that type of thing. You want to have some quality to it.
Absolutely.
You want to have some intent behind it to to show people what you're doing. But at the end of the day, that's the thing that gets people, excited and engaged. It's like, okay, like they're out here doing this and this is interesting.
This is a real person.
It's a real person.
It's not, just a
Exactly.
computer
Right.
that's digitizing or creating these posts and just mass posting them all over.
Exactly, right? Because we can all have auto posters, right? That's not
absolutely.
hard.
I've tested it.
Right?
It doesn't work so well.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. But I think that's the thing to me that there's so much value in that of having somebody come in and just kind of help. Right. And maybe it's not a long-term contract. Maybe it's not a whole bunch of money you're going to spend, but having a little bit of an investment up front with somebody like yourself who knows what they're doing and can kind of help assess from a realistic standpoint, and then maybe redirect or provide advice, that type of thing. I still think that many people undervalue. They really don't understand that, Pinterest is going to take over the world in regards to people buying products.
Mm-hmm.
That the same way that Etsy and the way that now Instagram is allowing an API where you can link to your stores. Like there's so many things going on where that's where everybody's going to buy. You're going to go there, sitting on your couch, watching TV, hopping on your phone, and like, oh, that is kind of cute. I'm going to buy that and never have to go into brick and mortar.
Exactly.
And now the interesting thing with brick and mortar is that the experience is coming back. You have a lot of retailers that are closing because they haven't caught on to the engagement around social media. But now people are like, well, if I'm going to go somewhere, it better be great.
Absolutely.
Right?
You have to, I'm selfish. You
Right.
have to entertain me no matter where I go.
No, that's awesome. So you ran through some things that you would suggest, but from an overall services standpoint, things that you offer. So let's say I am either a small business, large business, that type of person listening to the show right now. What are some of those things that you offer with your company in regards to services or consulting or whatever?
Sure. So I run Guys Girl Media, and we have some subsidiaries underneath guysgirl.com, which is a sports and entertainment website, national focus, and then I have Modern Logistics Marketing, which falls underneath those two. Those two industries are really my focus as far as web design is concerned. And web design is primarily what I do, but it's not from a perspective of I just make your website look pretty. You have to build the framework. Everybody knows that you can see a nice car driving down the road, but if it doesn't have anything under the hood, then it's not going to work for you. So what I do is I build a website based off of the user's goals. If they want to collect more leads, if they want to analyze the traffic to their website, if they want to create a platform for their sales documents. A lot of logistics people, they have a sales team that are out there on the force all the time, and they don't, printed materials are very expensive, and you don't get email addresses from printed materials.
Right.
So what I can do is I can set up, a sales splash page for them, for a user to go and download a different PDF or a different sales brochure. So I will take that regard. Or there's a bidding system for a construction company. They have a new contract that they have to bid out. And so I created a system for that construction company to be able to bid out to all of the local trucks that are in the area so they can bid and save money in that regard as well. And then from a logistics perspective too, there's thousands of people or thousands of carriers who own the big trucks that all drive down the road, and those trucks need a home too. And so I make either a home for those websites or for those companies. And then I also track those results and make things a little bit, I bring it all together in a full circle versus just here's a website, it looks pretty, I'm done with you, on to the next. So I'm holding their hand throughout the entire process to make sure that this website not only looks good, but functions in a way that they're going to earn revenue off of it.
Absolutely. No, and I think that's that's super helpful for a lot of businesses. Is just the hand holding, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Because you can call it collaboration, you can call it partnership,
Right.
but really it's just kind of helping make sure that and I love that you start with kind of the goal. Right?
Yes.
Where a lot of people are just like, I'm gonna start with the price. Right?
Yes.
Here's how much I charge and I'll make your website look pretty. Right?
Exactly.
But I love the idea of the user experience and understanding that, and it's because you're from that industry where you understand that there's an end goal, there's an ROI on what they're trying to achieve, and saying like, let's start there first, because at the end of the day, if I'm gonna build something for you or help you with your social media, I need to know what that is. I need to
Right.
know how we're measuring success for us to get there. Otherwise, it's just like we're just updating something with no intent behind it.
And that's
Yeah.
a real problem for a lot of companies. They don't know the end goal. They don't know that they're so busy in the day-to-day grind of their career, of their industry, that they're not thinking 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 2 years from now. And so that's where I sort of help them and say, hey, if you build this now, this is scalable. You can use this for years. And it's not a platform where they're going to be built into and they're, my customer for life. It's an independent platform because I firmly believe in staying independent as far as your website is concerned, because a lot of companies will get wrapped up in these monthly plans and they're stuck on a contract for 2 years that they can't get out of, and then they've just wasted 2 years and 2 years of momentum.
Right, absolutely. So I want to talk about sports.
Let's do it.
Yay.
Yay. I think, I love the fact that I did not know that about Jacksonville. I didn't know about the fan base.
Yes.
Right? I believe
either.
that.
That's
I
awesome.
believe, but it makes total sense, right? When you think about it. And shouts out to my boy Corey and Tiffany at customshirtsandmore.com and Custom Shirts and More, because they do everything Duval, and they
Nice.
make all kinds of cool like Jags, tanks, and cool stuff like that. And I'm always like that's pretty cool. And he's like, it's pretty popular too, right? he does
I know.
he does my shirts for me, but he's 100% right. Is
Looks good, man.
Yeah, he does a great job. But I never really thought through from a fan base standpoint. So that's awesome. So like why super fan? Like what was, like as a kid growing up, like what was the thing that really got you into sports at this level?
My dad.
Yeah.
I actually talked about this recently on Helmets and Heels with Father's Day just passing. But one of the first words I ever learned, and I think it is the first, I have to clarify this with my mom, was the S word. I don't even know if I can say this on.
Oh, you can. Yeah, we're good.
Shit. So I said shit when I was like 2 or 3 years old at my grandmother's house, and my grandmother called my mom and said, I got to tell you something. Your daughter learned a word, and
What a lovely memory.
she couldn't think of where she learned it from. And then one day I was in the living room and my dad was watching a Louisville Cardinals basketball game, and he was saying shit repeatedly. And she said, that's where she learned it from, and scolded my dad for it.
Yep.
But that's one of the first, I don't want to say memories, because I was actually told that you can't remember something when you're 2 or 3 years old, but I do vividly remember that's my mom telling me that story when I was younger. And ever since, I would say probably my mid-teens, I would say, is when I first started like following sports hardcore, because that's when we got the Jaguars when I was about 10 years old, I believe. And so after that is when I really got into, I was always into baseball. And then when we got the team, that's when, sort of Generation Jaguars started.
Nice. And then did you also play sports, or are you just kind of a fan?
I did play sports. I was a softball player and a swimmer, and then just sort of like a neighborhood kid. We had growing up, we had a great ballpark that was right near my house, and at 5 o'clock every day, that's where we were at. As soon as we got out of school, we did our homework, ate dinner, and then my mom was the concession stand manager, and my dad was the president of the park, so we were up there every single night.
Gotcha. So you've been around it forever.
Yeah. Sports has been a big part of my life.
That's awesome. So what do you most enjoy now about talking sports?
That's a difficult question for me, just because of this team, the Jaguars, and what they've done to me over the past, sort of decade. One thing that always brings me back is like what I call my football family. And we have the same group of people that we've tailgated with for years. My dad has tailgated in the same spot since inaugural season. And even though we've had, a decade of losing, and it's a little bit difficult for me now going from the fan perspective to having to talk about it for a living. It's a weird change, and I'm so thankful that the show is on Tuesday instead of Sunday, because if on Sunday I would probably be fired by now, because it's just so angry. This past off season, I openly questioned if the Jaguars have made me hate football. And we talked about this before the show, but I posted something on Reddit that said, I'm a Jaguars fan 10 years running, and I just feel a little hopeless as far as the next 5 years are concerned. I said, give me faith, other football fans, and it was a Lions fan. That was one of the first comments. They said, you don't know real pain.
You don't know pain. You don't know real pain.
But it sort of brought me back to, don't let sports affect your life to the point where you're, I don't want to say affecting your money, because it kind of would, but then I don't know. It's sort of a weird balance because then the passion comes through, but then on the other side, it's angry. And then by Wednesday, it's all... Everything's maybe we'll win this weekend.
Exactly.
Typical sports fans.
Right,
Awesome.
right. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's one of those things where being a Detroit Lions fan, I couldn't do the show. I would be, because I would be the guy who's just like, oh, and of course we fumbled on first and 10 on the 3-yard line with 1.5 minutes left to go to win the game. Of course we did. You know why? Because we're the Detroit Lions, and that's what we do here. We just
and the S word
throw
would
it
come
away.
up quite
Right?
a bit,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We throw it away, and I just start recapping all the times that we've done it in the past. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I couldn't do the show.
And I've actually been asked, even as early as a month ago, when are you going to start coming into the press box? And I said, never. I'm not you can't cheer, you can't curse in the press box.
Right, yeah.
I will stay at my season tickets where I belong.
Yeah, you got to be professional up there, right? You can't flip tables and throw coffee and burn jerseys. You can't do any of that up there.
You can't do any of it. It's frowned upon, apparently.
I think it'd be really surprised how people would be turned on by that.
Oh, yeah. I'd tune in. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's absolutely
at
great.
a heartbeat.
They'd probably kick me out and revoke my media credentials.
Oh, throw me up there. Give me a media pass.
Exactly.
We're up here, and Blythe is in the box this week. And
wait! Don't get her going.
Wait, here she goes. She's just flipped the table. She's flipped the table.
Oh, yeah.
She's throwing food right now.
Don't eat those press box hot dogs.
Yes.
Nice.
No, that's awesome. I think it's fantastic. And you had I think you had a blog post kind of talking about going from blogger to podcaster to broadcaster. Yes, I didn't want to screw that up. Yeah, which I thought was awesome, and I think that I think a lot of people get into this, with that hope of one day, kind of the dream of doing it for a living. And I would just love for you to kind of talk about like how did that happen?
Sure.
And what do you feel was it kind of right time, right place? Was it a lot of just blood, sweat, and tears, sweat equity, emotional equity, and doing what you love, and then finally it happening for you? Like, kind of how did that journey go down?
Definitely all of those options. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of personal relationships that were sacrificed because of my I guess dedication to work.
Addiction.
Yeah, that too. So I started out as a writer, and I think this is it's sort of a natural path now that I know and follow other people in broadcasting, but it's a natural path to go from a writer to radio or podcasting and then into TV and broadcasting. And a lot of the times people say that TV is the easiest, and I'd kind of have to agree because as soon as you get over the fear of the lights in your face, it's just like a normal conversation like what we're doing right now. It's where there just happens to be a mic in front of us. And the way I got started is I was a writer for years. I got hired on when the logistics company that I worked for unexpectedly closed, went out of business. I was at a dentist appointment and I got a text that we were out of business. It was that quick.
Wow.
And so I had to come up with a different career of what I was going to do. And in the meantime, I was still blogging. I was still doing that part-time, but it wasn't enough revenue in order to sustain my career full-time. And social media-wise, reached out to Void Magazine, and they were looking for a copy editor. I said, absolutely. I'm your girl. You won't find anybody that's going to work harder than me. I know I don't have a degree in journalism or broadcasting, but you won't find anybody that's going to work harder. And I sent them a bunch of different blog post links, and they hired me the next day. Nice. And worked my way up, eventually became their editor-in-chief, worked for them for a couple years, and then I started exploring different opportunities with radio. There was going to be a show that was going to be launching here in town for a football women's show, and one of my colleagues had mentioned me to Steve Griffin, who is the general manager over at 1010XL, and I went and had lunch with the girls and him, and we all just sort of hit it off. And at first, I was just going to do a segment a week, and that was just going to be my segment that I owned. I would come in, but I guess they liked me, so they made me a co-host, and I did the show actually for free for about 6 months. And because I knew that there's plenty of other people that have experience that could easily come in and take this job from me. Sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to learn from the people that I'm working with and just kill it. And I tried, and I guess I did a good job because they decided to start paying me for it, which is always fantastic.
That's a good thing.
And then from there, I made a few different connections, and one of those is with the former Jaguars mascot, Curtis Dvorak. He was Jackson DeVille for more than 20 years until he
guy.
until he just recently retired, and now he works for First Coast News. And the people over at the chat were looking for some guest fill-in co-hosts, and he dropped my name and mentioned me, and that's how I sort of just fell into doing TV.
Wow.
And after doing some TV stints with the chat and First Coast News, I was like, I could just do this from home. And that's where I sort of saw a lot of the potential, especially with live streaming, is that you're having this sort of intimate conversation with somebody. You're looking into a camera. You're in someone's living room. You're in their car, and you're looking them in the eye, and you're having a conversation. And so I've really been drawn in that direction. So that's really sort of, for a long way of saying, like, how I got into live streaming was really several different paths, and pretty lucky. I mean, I just, it's a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is I think just in hearing that, doing it as a hobby and as a passion point, and just kind of staying committed to it, kind of led to the opportunity where there was an opportunity where you can send them links,
Yes.
right? Like, had you not done the work, you have nothing to show them, right?
Exactly.
And then taking that opportunity onto the next opportunity and working for free, right? Realizing and being honest with yourself about kind of assessing the situation and saying, well, I really want this, and I'm willing to put my time and effort into it. And then that then turning into another opportunity, which then turns into another opportunity. So I think that, that's I think the biggest thing to me is most people, because of social media, people think that these things happen overnight.
No,
right?
They do not.
They do not.
There was actually a big kerfuffle with Darren Rovell. He is a ESPN business reporter, and somebody had asked him for advice on getting into sports, and he tweeted it out that you should intern, and that you should intern at a variety of different places, and people got up in arms over it, because how could you possibly ask people to work for free? I'm like, I did it.
Right?
Yeah.
I did it. You have to weigh those options.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to say like everybody should work for free, but you have to look at it from an investment point of view. Are you going to get something out of this in the long run, not necessarily monetarily? Are you going to get connections out of this? Are you going to get valuable job experience that you can take to another place and somebody will pay you for those services? So you have to look at it from, how am I investing in me?
Absolutely. No, it's a great point. And I think it's funny, even in the music industry, and Don knows from a studio standpoint, right? You could walk out with Musicians Institute or Full Sail or anywhere with an engineering degree for music, and you're going to go intern in the studio. That's what you're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to spend all that money to learn something.
Yep.
And you're going to be the part-time intern running cables in the studio, right?
And they're going to say, well, that's not how they taught us in school, but yeah, this is the real world now.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's where you really learn,
Yeah, no, that I think it's great, and it's great advice, and that's probably my favorite part of some of the Gary Vee stuff. As
Yes.
a fan, it's like shut up and work.
Yes.
Right? Go
love
do
that.
it.
Put
I
your
love
do
nose
it.
to the grind.
Yeah.
Get off social media. I know this is about social
Ah.
media, but dedicate your
Yeah.
time
Absolutely.
appropriately.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
spend all day liking, your friend's ex-boyfriend's photos or something, and think that you're going to get leads or revenue from it.
No, it's that was, I think, one of my favorite parts that he ever mentioned was I think it was on the Ask Gary Vee show, and a guy asked him, he's like, I'm a huge fan, and I'm trying to start my business, do all that stuff. He's like, and I've watched every one of your videos, and I think he was like, you've watched every one of my videos? And he's like, yeah, like everyone. He's like all 400 hours of them. He's like, yeah, like all of them. He's like, all right, first though, stop watching my videos,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Stop, like all
Right.
that time that you're watching, like go out and put that into your business. Like, what are you doing?
Absolutely.
And it was just funny because he's just like the anti, right?
Yes.
The anti-marketer who's great at marketing. So that's fantastic. Okay, well, this is a part of the show that I always have to preface this now.
I love
Okay.
it too, because it gets them a little nervous, but they don't need to get nervous.
No, it's fun.
You'll see.
Yeah, so the first season we called this "Things That Make You Go right?
Okay.
Which is most people know is like an old CNC Music Factory song. If you're that age, if not, no big deal. Now this part of the show is called "Whoomp There It Is."
Okay.
Okay.
I got it.
Whoomp There It Is. And what it is just questions based on the letters WHOOMP.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't have to memorize anything at all. It's
Gotcha.
really
Okay.
easy,
Whew,
right?
good.
It's okay.
She's
No,
like,
it's all good.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
You
He's
taking
gonna quiz me
notes.
later.
Like,
I just
man,
know it.
I'm in trouble. Whoomp There It Is. All right, so the W stands for weekend activity.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that we've talked about football and the Jags, but any other weekend activities that you enjoy doing besides
Anything near
football?
the water.
Okay.
The beach is a bit. In my early 20s, I didn't live in Jacksonville, and I moved all across the country, and I missed the beach so much. It was sort of weird being in a place and not knowing northeast or northeast, south, and west. And you don't realize how much you miss the beach until you move away, or miss Jacksonville in general. So I would have to say anything near water. I sort of feel like it's more spiritual for me. Like if I just this past week, I probably worked close to 80 hours. And this morning I said, no, I'm not going to work this morning. I'm going to go to the beach and I'm going to get a little soul rejuvenation. Yeah. So that's what I like to do is I go swimming. I look for shells, little things like that to just get you have to re-energize yourself away from work, and so the beach is my number one go-to.
Now, I saw a surfboard in the background in one of your videos. Yes. Are you surf as well, or just the board?
I've dabbled in it in the past. That's actually a gift from Void Magazine. Okay. There's a big surf company, and the only board I've ever owned was just a crusty yellow that is just so old that now it just sits more of decoration in my house. And so they had, as an appreciation, they gave me a custom board, which was so generous, and now I'd use it as a prop. And I think I'm too afraid to take it out and use it just because it'll get all it won't be as pretty.
Right.
So now I'll just use a friend's board.
You don't want it to get crusty.
No, I want it to stay pretty, especially with the big logo on it.
Exactly. That's branding, right? Branding 101. Leave it in the bag. It looks cool. I noticed it. It's awesome. Keep it there. Okay, so the H stands for habit. So what habit do you have that you think most drives people crazy?
I would have to say I think I'm always right. When I'm in debates, especially for helmets and heels, I'm like, you guys are all morons. I'm the smartest person in this room. I don't say it just like that, and I know it might sound a little egotistical, but
No. That's what makes you great for the show. Like, you have to have that feeling if you're going to be sports talk radio.
But I pride myself, especially when it comes to sports, to listening to a variety of different sources. So if somebody comes to the plate and they only have one small, narrow-minded view of one part of the story, then I'm like, no, I got you.
Yeah, look out.
Right? That's awesome.
I'm ready. There was a Louisville scandal with the strippers and all that stuff that they got punished last week for. And I remember the news breaking Thursday afternoon, and Friday morning I put my Louisville shirt on and I go to the gym. And normally I'm very reserved. Like I look at the ground. I don't pay attention to anybody. But this day I was looking everybody in the eye. I was ready for them.
Please say something to me.
Say something.
Say something.
I want you to say something.
Exactly. State your name, state the school that you cheer for, and then say something.
And get ready.
Because I've got the year, I've got the charge, and I've got the name of that athlete.
Exactly. I was ready to defend my team.
I love it. Yes, I love it. No, since I'm from Michigan, I'm a Michigan fan.
Yes.
Right. So, and people know how serious of a Michigan fan I am, right? Because my daughter, she just turned 2 like last week, and I was teaching her first words, trying to get her to say "Go Blue."
Nice.
So at least she gets her hand pumped, like, "Go Blue," and she would do it, right? But yeah, like, obviously, being in Florida and then having to play Florida State last year and having a lot of my dear friends, Seminole fans, right? I appreciate, I know they're real fans. You know why? Because they didn't say anything to me after the game. Because they knew that would be the end of our friendship. Yeah. You would lose my number. Nothing will ever happen.
The Jaguars, they broke me after the Oakland Raiders game last year because it was a very pivotal point in the season with the Oakland Raiders and the Jaguars. They were on similar trajectories as far as rebuilding the franchise, and this poor guy, after we got humiliated by the Raiders, this poor guy came to me the next morning at work and tried to talk to me about the game, and
no. Yes.
It was not pretty.
No.
I had to apologize a few days later.
That's right. It doesn't happen.
But he never did it again.
That's right. If you know that somebody's a diehard sport, you got to give them some time.
Yes.
I got some really good friends that are Atlanta Falcon fans.
Ooh.
Right? And I watched that. And you know what? I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I talked to one of them the next day, had a whole conversation for 45 minutes. Didn't mention a word. Got to the end, I was like, all right, I'll talk to you later. Bye. But he goes, hey. I'm like, what's up? He goes, thank you for not saying anything about the Falcons. I said, bro. I said, I got you, bro. Trust me, I understand.
It's appreciated more than you know.
Yeah, trust me,
true
right?
Friend.
Yeah, true. That's real. I get it, right? So I understand. All right. The first O from whom there it is opportunity. Have you ever passed on an opportunity and looking back on it, wish you hadn't?
No. I have passed on opportunities because it didn't feel right. And while I think that the person that they originally got for the job does a fantastic job, it's not right for me. I've had a couple opportunities to take a sideline gig, sideline reporting, and that's just not where I want to be.
Yeah.
I'm a person who is very opinionated, and as a sideline reporter, you can't
Nope.
you can't tell. I like to have a voice. I like to see.
I would love to put her on this. I'd pay for this.
I would, yeah.
I would watch this show, right? Yes, Blythe here on the sidelines of the Jackals. I just had a quick question. What the hell were you thinking? Do you not see? Do your eyes not
Why
work?
did you not call a timeout?
Did you not call a timeout? Right?
Explain yourself.
Get her off camera. Get her off camera. Camera 2 and fade out and go to camera 3 in the booth and cut Blythe.
I'd be throwing my mic on the ground. Like, how do you do this to me every year? Every year.
I love it. That's great.
But that's definitely something that I've passed on, and I've looked at other women who have taken those roles, and they do so great. But it's just not for me.
Yeah. No, that's great. I appreciate just the self-awareness, right? And the understanding of
There's a
what-
little bit of hesitation
Right.
there because you see them traveling on these jets and living in really nice cities, and I'm like, no, I love Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay here.
That's great. Okay. All right. The second O is for over. So what fashion trend, song, or internet meme are you over?
Oh goodness. That's a good question. What am I over? I'd say I'd probably get tired of internet memes faster than the normal person.
Yeah.
I would. Dang, that's a tough question. Over. I would say probably anything that has to do with politics. I am
Over it.
The with Trump getting elected, it has just turned, no matter what side you stand on, it has turned social media up on its head. And sometimes I think that a lot of these networks are unbearable since he's gotten elected. I find myself using Facebook less, using Twitter less, because it's so divisive between each side. So I would say that's probably, if I'm over anything, it's definitely that.
Yeah.
The hatred on, the small sectors of the population on each side.
Sure. No, I totally agree with you. I think it's difficult because you scrolling through, you see something, and you see 474 comments, and you're just like, oh. Like, I don't even want to run down this path. How much time do I have right now? I just want to throw in my Michael Jackson popcorn eating meme. Like, you guys are out of control. But it just makes me mad. Like, it just frustrates you because you're like, how can people spend this much time, just debating and all this type of stuff? So I'm 100% behind you on that.
It wears you out.
It does.
And there's no real... from my perspective, there's no real quality conversation taking place on social media when it comes to that.
Can you
regard.
believe that there's people that have befriended or stopped being friends with people
Like
because
unfriended?
of
Oh, absolutely.
It's
No,
unbelievable.
without question. Yeah.
And they may never even have those conversations face to face, but on
Right.
Facebook they end up being enemies now.
No, it's crazy. Yeah. So I'm with you.
And a
on
lot of that negative energy, those people would never say it to somebody else's face.
Right.
They get like the superhero or
Internet gangster.
Yes,
That's what we call it.
keyboard superheroes.
I love it.
Where they're only tough online, but in
Exactly.
normal conversation, they're very civilized. Where's this person?
Exactly. You're right. Yeah. What's going on here? Yeah, totally. Okay. The M stands for musician. So favorite musician, music, song, album.
Oh my gosh! I go in moods.
Okay.
So I would say right now the person that I'm listening to over and over and over again for like the past month is Khalid. Not DJ Khalid.
Right. DJ Khaled.
Khaled.
Yeah, it's all right.
Khalid is who I'm just over and over. His record is his album, or his album, I guess I should say. I don't know if people say records anymore.
Yeah, I do.
You can.
Yeah, I'm a vinyl guy.
They're
I say
bringing them
records.
back. It's
I have seen that collectors and I don't know what's the. I mean,
Yeah.
they're going to
I
actually
get it.
start. I mean, a lot of people are doing that now instead of CDs.
Yeah. Well, it's
I'm all Spotify, so I don't need to.
streaming music. Huh?
Yeah,
I
that's-
gotcha.
Spotify premium user, it changes your life from a music perspective.
Yeah.
You stop listening to the stuff that's on the radio.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
same
yeah.
recycled garbage, most of it anyways.
Yeah, a lot of it is
It's hard to take.
same stuff over and over again. Yep. Okay. All right. And then the P for Whoomp, there it is for passion. So outside of the things that we've talked about today so far, what other things might you be passionate about?
Work is, I'm going to go off the list. So Disney, work, sports, making websites. What else? Family? I guess family could be one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I would say really family is probably my outside of work. That's really and the beach and the water. That's really my saving grace, because
awesome.
they remind me where I come from, and blue collar people just like I was raised, and I feel like a lot of my values and what I have in everyday life comes from them. So I would probably have to say that, or I don't know, any kind of like crafts or DIY. I'm super into a lot of, like we talked about making Jaguar shirts earlier. So jewelry or anything like that. Like that, I'm a little crafty when it comes to that stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now, you mentioned your parents earlier, but do you have any siblings?
I do. I have a younger brother, 3 years younger than me.
Nice.
He's a creative too, so he works for Home Stamps, another local company here in town.
Nice.
So yeah, he's like my best friend too. So my family, we have a huge family. We're all super close. We all take family vacations together, and they're all a little crazy. But I mean, what's a big family without some crazy people in it?
You got to. Right? We've all got them, right?
Makes the holidays so much more entertaining.
When you have to give a warning about somebody before you bring a friend around, you say
So hey, you're gonna meet.
Just a heads up.
Just a head. You might hear some things or see some things.
If my aunt flirts with you, just ignore it.
Just ignore it. Yeah.
Or go for it, whatever you're into.
That too.
Make it a real awkward Thanksgiving, right?
Just ignore the sexual harassment. I'm sorry.
Right. Shout out to your aunt.
Can I meet her?
Yeah, sounds like fun. That's awesome. Well, fantastic. That brings us kind of to the end of the show. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a blast, and looking forward to kind of the football season coming up.
Yes.
And
there is a little bit of hope.
A little bit of hope, right? And
Coughlin, right?
We'll troll.
Coughlin is the only saving grace.
So do you think that you'll have a winning season this year?
No.
Oh, boy.
And I kind of hope that we don't. I say that with the best of intentions, because I don't think that Blake Bortles is the answer at the quarterback position, and it's the most important position in all of sports. And he's coming from a place where he's had to have sort of had a fire lit under him in order to try. And that bothers me from a fan perspective, where I think your quarterback is a lot like love, where you know pretty quickly if that person is for you or not. And I don't think he's the right guy. And if he is going to be the right guy, if he's the 2015 Blake, like what we've seen before with record-setting numbers, then he's just going to be good enough to get us, a 7-8 win season, and then we're going to be in quarterback purgatory when next year's draft is arguably one of the best quarterback drafts that we've seen in years. So ideally, for the long-term future, I don't want to say like tank the season, but if we get 2 wins and we get a really good quarterback out of it, if we get Sam Darnold or Lamar Jackson, then I would be all over that. That's my end wish.
I love it. It's kind of like when the Colts, when Peyton left and they had the Suck for Luck campaign, right? Let's suck for luck.
How do you get those 2 quarterbacks back to back? And why is Indianapolis in the South?
I love it. So you got to promise me something, that we will find time. I don't care if I have to take the portable recorder. We will find time like mid-season to sit down and do another show, just Jags talk, just to get the emotional sense of where we're at in the season.
If you really want the goods, we got to do it on Monday.
Oh, no, 100%. It's happening.
And you can use the S word all you want.
That's good. That's why I love podcasting.
Absolutely, right?
Curse when you want.
Right. Or we'll try to find a day where there's like an early game, like a 1 o'clock game or something, and then we'll head to the studio that night.
Oh, you don't want to talk about that. I'm asleep by 7.
That'd be very exciting, though. That'd be very exciting.
Right. Or we'll take the Tascam recorder and we'll just head down to the pregame party. And we'll document the whole event.
How about the before and after thing?
Yeah.
How about that?
No, you can always see the before. It's the after that no.
No.
Unless it's a win.
If it's a win, that's a good thing. That's one side of the story. But if it's a loss, I'm asleep by 7. I'm probably asleep by 7 with a win anyways.
Right. Awesome.
Good.
Well, cool. Well, Blythe, thanks for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
Again, everybody check her out at guysgirl.com. And at guysgirl on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all social media. And check out Helmets and Heels on Twitter. And every Tuesday
night, 7 to 9 p.m.
You got it. And if you're looking for any help or support in getting your website, social media up to speed, and you're in logistics, please check out modernlogisticsmarketing.com.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And give Blythe a call, and she will be more than happy to drive your business the same way that she would drive the Jags if she was the head coach.
Oh, nice.
See that?
I like that
man.
connection.
Wow.
I got this.
You can
Full
write
circle.
that down.
You can use that.
Full circle. So
That's my new
all right.
tagline.
Absolutely. So thanks everybody. Life of Lozo, and we are out. Studio A, Stay Tuned Studios.
The Life of Lozo podcast is brought to you by Stay Tuned Studios, The Taylor Shop Inc., 03 Productions, The Beat Brigade, Rhyme Designs Clothing, Ron's World Guitars, The Music Experience, Custom Shirts and more, and Jack's Nutrition. Thank you for listening and checking us out. Please follow us on social media, review the podcast, share it with your friends, tell everybody you know about it, and have a great week. Season 2 is on and cracking with more special guests as we hang out in Studio A at Stay Tuned Studios here in Jacksonville, Florida. Peace, y'all.